This is the Asia Hollywood Greenlight podcast, episode number 52.
And rolling sound, quiet.
Here we go. Ready.
Speeding. 120, take 7.
And action.
This is Caryn McCann, the host of the Asia Hollywood Greenlight podcast, a podcast about creating and distributing content for both Hollywood and Asia. To show your support, please subscribe, leave a rating, or share this podcast on social media so more people can discover this podcast. The more we grow the community, the more we can collaborate. Any links mentioned in the podcast can be found in the show notes at the Asia list, where Hollywood and Asia meet. Just go to https://chnlist.com, look for the podcast blog tab, and look for this episode, which is number 52. Before I introduce today's guest, I'd like to start out with a motivational quote to encourage our listeners to continue on their path to achieving their own green light. And today's quote is from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and he said, "Take the first step in faith. You don't have to see the whole staircase, just take the first step." A quick plug for the Asia List. The Asia List is a membership website that connects writers and producers in Hollywood and Asia. Producers, directors, and talent reps, remember that membership is free. Find the next great script or writer before your competition does. You can also post tailored calls for submissions on our private writing jobs page. It's free. Sign up at https://chnlist.com. And a quick update on what I'm working on. I just attended the American Film Market in Los Angeles, so I'll be doing lots of follow-up over the next several weeks. The good news is American, Canadian, Korean, and Taiwanese companies have suggested that they can film 2 of my scripts in their respective countries. The funny thing is they are all talking about the same 2 scripts. So I'm confident these 2 projects have the potential to reach a wide audience. And now, here is the main segment. Today's guest is Caryn Dillingham. Caryn is Chief Executive Officer at Wavelets Entertainment, overseeing all aspects of the company's operations. Prior to Wavelets, Caryn was president of Power On Digital for 8 years, lead content developer for 4 years at Lions Road Productions, a graduate of the University of Boulder at Colorado, a regular speaker on marketing, business operations, and entrepreneurship at UCLA. Caryn has been a longtime supporter of the New Village Girls Academy, a charter school for young women in Los Angeles. So, Caryn, thank you for coming on the show today.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Well, I told the audience a little bit about you. Why don't you take a minute and tell us about yourself personally and your business?
Thank you so much. I'm from Malibu, California, originally. Went to Malibu High School, loved my English classes. Went on to go to the University of Boulder at Colorado and loved that too. I became an English lit major there. And of course, naturally, when I got back to LA, I worked in retail clothing sales.
Okay. Great.
And shortly after got a job as an assistant, a creative assistant to an actor writer, and worked with him for about 4 years writing scripts.
Wow.
And I felt very lucky. He's still a good friend of mine. In that process, I loved the aspect of writing, of ghost writing, and in managing his marketing, website, social media. I fell in love with that process. So I went on to start my own marketing company, worked on a few films in that 8 years, had some great big clients. We were in the green. And, it was a fantastic experience. Again, all born from the love of writing. And a good friend of mine from China, I think we met in 2011. As we got closer, we started working on projects. She is a producer in China, and we just loved working together. And she found a great opportunity and a gap in the, entertainment world. And from there, we raised money from Alibaba.
Wow.
Yep. It was not an easy feat. We did. And then Media Asia. They're also a public company listed on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange. So all of that is to create great content. Jack Ma wanted more competitive content and wanted to utilize the great writers in Hollywood and the diverse writers in Hollywood to, create more content initially for Yoku, but of course for sales and distribution everywhere. So I'm in heaven. I mean,
right.
My work is very, very challenging. It's not to say it's easy, but I get to, run our business, run the finances and manage people, which I've been doing for 12 years and I love. And also find great stories and tell stories. So it really is a sweet spot. I'm really grateful.
Well, you sort of answered my first question, which is why do you want to expand in the Asian market? You mentioned that you met this Chinese producer. What started that interest back then to work with China?
Sure. I mean, I think there was so much of a gap about 7 or 8 years ago.
Right.
It was really just bubbling up to the surface. She and I were in China, working on a project, and she had me out to Beijing to speak at the Beijing Film Academy.
Wow.
Oh yeah, no pressure, right?
Yeah.
So, we were talking and she was going, there's just such a huge demand for content in Asia and in China. Their streaming services were, those machines, those content producing machines that we've kind of gotten used to, were really in their early to mid phases. And they needed to feed those machines. So they needed great content, and they still do. But nonetheless, so she was saying, we need great content, and, there's not enough scripts. There's never enough scripts. And I said, oh my God.
Writers love to hear that.
Exactly. I lit up. And, I thought, oh my gosh, next time you're in LA, we'll take back then people were still in cabs, but even Uber drivers, Lyft drivers, baristas, bartenders, everybody in LA has a script.
Right.
And we're just so oversaturated with scripts and writers, which is a great problem to have. And, for us, we were talking and light bulbs were going off. And I think it was about a year or a year and a half later that we decided to start our company, now called Wavelets Entertainment.
Okay.
We are rebranding, but we'll be Morning View Entertainment. But yeah, it was just an obvious choice. I mean, it just seemed like, how could we not move forward in this sort of environment in that way?
Okay. Well, you definitely sound like you've got a lot on your plate, but that's a good thing. So what are 2 or 3 main tasks you do on a, quote, typical day?
Thank you. It's so funny, the word typical these days, right?
Right. Exactly.
Yes. I feel in the heart of COVID, I feel like as untypical or not typical as those days were, they were definitely more similar in that I was sitting at my desk every day, a little more isolated. But now I would say finding great stories. I read a lot of scripts, maybe 3 to 10 a week.
Oh, wow.
Yep. And also finances. So we work on our monthly and quarterly finances to turn into Alibaba and Media Asia. And also our budget, managing being a responsible steward for the investment we have. I would say some HR falls under that. I love managing. So it's really important to me to see the employees we have grow. And yeah, that's pretty much it, and I find it all to be very creative. I think even the financial aspects are as creative, if not more, than writing, because, that's how opportunities are made. And
That's right.
The decision where the money goes, that's, somebody's work, somebody's job. What project are we going to do? How are we going to do it? I feel like that's like the canvas of real life, so to speak. So over the years, it's all incredibly engaging to me.
Is that when you say finance, obviously you've got the, running a business, finances and expenses. Are your investors, are they agreeing to finance the projects you find? You're like Alibaba Media Asia. Are they, or do you, or does finance under that umbrella of finance, does that mean you need to go find investors?
Sure. So the regular financing is managing our budget and making sure the money goes to, the best place to make our company grow and succeed. In terms of our model, we historically, and we were commissioned to find great scripts, film and web series dramas for our investors. Yoku being, a subsidiary, wholly owned subsidiary of Alibaba, and then Media Asia. So we do that. They sometime, there have been deals put in place, financial deals for that content. So then we absolutely are excited to start working more here in the US.
Okay.
Yes. So that we would be raising finances for. We do have a budget for development and project development. So we did have 3 writers' rooms pre-COVID. We sold 1 show, 24 episode series. Yep. Fantastic series. So it's, we have our business model, and Alibaba and Media Asia are wonderful investors. They have been great to us. So our work now here in the US is not to minimize that, it's to double down. And we're all very excited to to do that, because at the end of the day, it's telling great stories and getting butts in seats.
Yeah. So if only you had 30 hours a day instead of 24.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, you did allude to the fact that you have these investors already in China and Hong Kong, Alibaba, Yoku, Media Asia. And now you're expanding more, doing more work in the US, which leads to this question. How do you find your business partners, and how do you find producers who are keen on content with Asian elements?
So the harsh and true answer is getting ready, walking out the door, and getting out there.
Oh, there you go. Just do it.
You just do it. We spoke a little bit earlier. We both were at AFM.
Right.
I felt so inspired by going there, and Los Angeles has events all the time, just constantly. And there's great events for Asian content development, for the LGBTQ space, I feel like there's a lot when you believe in something, you can find events related to that. And it's also wonderful to go to events unrelated, because there might be less saturation for what you're providing in those. But I would say it's just getting out there, meeting people, being outgoing, being the first one to talk, being, particular and, clear intention, and also being honest and straightforward and direct. I think that it's like when you bring energy and you believe in your stories, and what you're working on, people feel that. And it's a funny thing, but it's a little bit contagious. And, for me, I know when I'm talking to somebody who really truly believes in what they're doing, you can't really fake that funk. And,
right.
So it makes me want to get on board and find out more. So yeah, I mean, that's what I'd say. And but it's very important to be honest and direct, I think, as well, because I think it's a mistake for people to try to pretend to be something they're not, or I don't know. Even at AFM, there were so many people just playing it too cool for school. And I was
okay.
What are you doing? We're all here. And I think the idea in finding a good partnership is, finding that fit. And so I think the best way to find that right fit with somebody, a colleague, strategic partner, a good friend in the industry, whoever it is, you've got to be really honest about where you're at and what you want to do, in order to find a good fit.
Exactly. Now, just to clarify that, I was at the AFM, and there was, I was walking the halls, and one particular person was saying, "Oh, the script's out to Scarlett Johansson." I'm like, yeah, I don't know how likely that's going to work on a less than $1 million budget. Is that kind of what you mean? Like when I walk into these rooms, I will say, my motto is action films for smart women. That's my tagline. Thank you. So people know immediately. It's short, it's succinct, and I bring up my Asian background, so they kind of know where I'm going. Is that kind of what you mean as far as be yourself or be honest?
That's exactly what I mean.
Okay.
That's exactly what I mean. And I think that that's that approach, your approach, is how you're going to, or maybe you already have found the right strategic partners, because, when you get your thoughts right there on the table. And I also think it's about great content. So like what you said is based on the content. You talked about the story, great action films, with women,
female protagonists, right?
Female protagonist, right? So that's story driven. I can feel that movie. I can see that movie, and all of a sudden, I'm in my mind right now. I'm watching Die Hard
with a woman.
It's like,
perfect,
like Amanda McClain instead of John McClain. It's like awesome. I would love to see that.
Okay.
But that the woman that you spoke with, who, no judgment here, but she talked about getting Scarlett Johansson, and that's it's hard to get somebody to believe in logistics. It's hard to communicate heart and energy through logistics and things like that. So she was being honest and straightforward, and that's a good thing. I'm not knocking that, but at the same time, great content is what drives the whole
That's it.
production procedure.
That's it.
And to start a conversation, it's about the story. So
That's right.
to me, that's a big part of it too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. So my next question is, what obstacle did you encounter on a past project? How did you overcome it, and what did you learn?
I think I will speak to I was thinking about this question, and there really wasn't anything particular that I could come up with. But I think especially for people interested in crossing cultural boundaries, and those, closing cultural gaps, creating more exposure for Asian content, hiring Asian actors, actresses, writers. I think that it's very easy, and I'll just talk about myself here, for an American, because our history is so short, to take for granted the depth and gravity of other cultures. And, and I think there's a lot of communication differences. And even when everybody's intentions are aligned, everybody can sit down at a table and be so willing to reach this goal together. But one person can say something and it can be taken personally by the other side because it's a very different culture. And I'm not even specifying which side is which here, because it doesn't matter. These could be any two cultures. But I would say, now that's healable. That's manageable with communication. Again, honesty and transparency. But it takes time. And I think that's something that a lot of people take for granted, even in basic translation. When you translate a contract, you translate a page of dialogue on a script. When you step out of European cultures and go into a truly different culture with really different roots, they're going to make the same point in a different way. As you know, it's not a word for word translation. So
right.
There's a lot of need, and it takes a lot of time to get to an understanding. It's not impossible, and especially when everybody's intentions are aligned. But it definitely is something that I think Americans in general can take for granted.
Yes.
Is the time it takes to get to clarity.
Exactly. Well, I know that, obviously, especially the East-West divide, if you want to call it that, it can cause issues, especially with communication, which leads me to my next question, because communication could be an issue. If you could magically solve two current problems / issues, what would they be?
I mean, that is a big question. I guess, first of all, I'll start with the quick one.
Okay.
After, the last couple of months and reading what's happening to streamers, and I'm sure there's a lot of investors are starting to back off. Almost like the tech boom. A lot of investors are starting to pull back from streamers because they're just not profitable. A lot of them haven't been profitable. So I think there's a lot of opportunity in that. But also Netflix is starting to do advertising on demand, AVOD. And I'm just, if I could solve one thing, I would just keep Netflix the same.
All right.
I think their non-advertising based platform side is going to go up in price as well. I think it's going to be like $22 a month or something like that.
Oh boy.
But again, there's always opportunities in these changes, but I just wish that weren't the case.
And the second one?
And the second one, I mean, I think that 7 or 8 years ago, there was a wonderful, energetic, and huge boom in the co-productions between China, I think especially China, but Asian cultures and the US. And over the past, since then, I've seen, the tariff issues, right? The tariff wars. And then a little while after that, there was COVID. I think that the co-pros and the financing, the river of financing that was going back and forth between China and the US, I think there needed to be some speed bumps put in, because that in order to create a sustainable environment, that needs to happen. But I feel as though there's a lost opportunity in incredible co-productions that if it didn't really, I feel as though it's kind of that river is mostly dried up. And I feel like if there were some speed bumps, but there was still more of a steady stream, without the political issues, without cultural issues and a lot of misinformation. I feel as though today I would be seeing more amazing Asian content. I mean, I'll take a second here and just say, they have such a deep, rich history. The drama that creates when, you have two people meeting in a coffee shop that, their souls have been intertwined for 3,000 years and they just met on a Tuesday. It's like they just happen to run across each other. That deep history and culture makes for incredible, compelling dramas. And I wish I was seeing more of that on a regular basis. I mean, yes, there's a lot of great Asian content on streamers now, but I do feel as though there's just been a lot of opportunity lost from the political issues and the world issues that we've all been faced with over the last 6 years.
Well, I totally agree. Is that more the case with Chinese co-productions? Do you think there's still opportunity with Southeast Asia or other Asian countries? Countries not China specifically, but other Asian countries are still doing co-pros?
Absolutely. And the truth is China is too, a little bit. It's just nothing compared to what it used to be. But Taiwan is doing a lot of co-pros. Vietnamese are doing a lot of co-pros. There's a lot going on, as we all know. Korea is just like killing the game.
Booming.
I know. Oh my gosh. After Parasite and Squid Games, I just want more.
Yeah.
Squid Game. But I just want more. So nonetheless, I think that it's still totally happening. It's possible. It's not what it was.
Right.
But I think the thing to remember that a lot of people are trying to find shortcuts around. And I've heard so many people say this, especially in the last 2 or 3 months. There's no shortcut around creating great content. And so if you have, we work with Asian writers here in Hollywood, and their writing is absolutely breathtaking. And I think that, it's about embracing Asian themes that are really truly beautiful, and using those themes as new ways into character development. I grew up with stories where the protagonist has to gain something and when they do, that's when they really fulfill their journey. And in a lot of, and they usually go rogue, they go on some independent path to gain a prize, and the path to doing that or not doing that, and what they discover along the way. Whereas Asian storytelling is very much about, working with other people and then making a sacrifice to become a hero.
Right.
So I think that's, again, I'm not saying one's better than the other, but that's really starting. If it's like, okay, how do we expand Asian themed content? How do we get more Asian themed content? I think that it's really about the story, creating great content, and having the heart of that content reflect a different approach that is refreshing and humbling and interesting and inspirational.
Is that the kind? Well, that just leads to my next question. Is that the kind of projects you're looking for? And the follow up to that is, what do you think the American or Asian producers are looking for?
Sure. I think Asian producers are generally looking for that kind of content. And I think that I'm looking for that. The barometer that I use on a daily basis is how does this make me feel? Does this make me feel something? We've optioned 4 scripts in the last 3 years, and I find one great script a year.
Whoa.
Yeah, and that's an average that I've heard is pretty regular.
Oh, holy cow!
I know. And I'll tell you that within 10 to 20 pages, I know I'm on that ride, and there's nothing like it. And I'm feeling excited. I can't wait to see what this protagonist is going to do, how they're going to grow from where they are. I'm really excited. We are about to go to production we're still in development, but are going to go to production for a elevated horror film that I optioned about 3 years ago. And this story, I can't even tell you. I mean, I was terrified. I couldn't wait to see what happened. I felt what the protagonist was feeling. She's a great lead role, and it is a great opportunity for a breakout actress. It really follows her, and she has a history of mental illness. So seeing her fight for her life in this really incredibly entertaining, thriller environment, it's just so much more suspenseful because of who she is and the mental issues she's dealt with. She has a history of suicide. So, which I think, of course, coming out of COVID and all the statistics and people that, all the hardships people have endured, I think mental illness is really at the forefront right now.
Right.
And I think that this story is very timely. And just truly inspirational, because seeing her fight for her life and go from passive to active, it was just so deeply rewarding. So I don't focus on genre. I don't focus on logistics. When I read something that's that compelling, I'm getting on the phone and I'm figuring out how to get it under our roof to add to our slate, because it's about feeling something. I mean, that's what this is all about.
Exactly. Now, here is a trick question. What question did I not ask you that I should have?
Well, that right there, any questions that have not been asked, you just made up for it all right there.
No, okay.
Great. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I feel like you've hit all the big ones.
Here's a
Yeah.
question. Some Americans will say that China has rolled up the welcome mat for Americans. Now, for screenwriters who are interested in the writing for both Hollywood and Asia, do you think there's more opportunity now in Asia than China?
More opportunity now in Asia than in China.
In China, yeah, because China has. It seems like it's a little bit hard to. You've got to deal with censorship, and you've got. Like you just alluded to earlier, the co-pros has kind of dried up in China. And it's if you're a writer and you want to write Asian themed stories, if you're an American writer and should I say Western writer, and you want to try your hand at Asian stories, maybe focusing on China, maybe you should expand your outlook and consider Taiwan or Malaysia or Singapore, especially places that have tax incentives instead of China. What do you think?
Yes, I agree with that. I think that it is right now, for the time being, and this may change, but for the time being, Western writers that want or write, even Asian writers here that want to write for Asia, in Asia, get films made there, or web series dramas made there. It's more likely that funding is going to come from other territories like Taiwan, or and there's even political issues going on there now, but Vietnam, the Philippines, there's so many areas that are, I think, seeing this drop in the Chinese co-production as an opportunity, because
right.
Yeah. So, I mean, I spoke with actually somebody that was on your podcast a while ago, and he, I think for the financing reasons, the tax incentive reasons, but then also because of the censorship, it's so hard to handle that. And it's not just the regulations or the rules, how small that box is that people can work within, but it's also the unpredictability.
That is true.
Yep. And it is risky. They can pull something off the air at any time if they decide it's not appropriate. So yeah. There's one thing, that's the logistical answer. I'm the only Caucasian at my company. Okay. And I have seen over the past 4 or 5 years, and I'm it's open communication, direct communication at our company. That's our style. And I have just seen so many, Americans try to write for the Asian culture, and even if they're very well educated, really take for granted the everyday nature of these rooted differences. And it's a very difficult undertaking. I would say go live there, surround yourself with Asian people, talk to Asian people about the themes, just because it is so easy as Americans who come from a real boiling pot of cultures, to take for granted the depth and the homogeneous nature of cultures like certain Asian cultures.
Well, I think you should write a book. Like that author who wrote Crazy Screenwriting Secrets. It was sort of based on writing for Hollywood in China, and it was sort of it was right around the time of Crazy Rich Asians that came out. So he wrote a book, and I'll put the link in the show notes. But I think the title is Crazy Screenwriting Secrets. Writing about this is 3 or 4 years ago. I think about writing for China, basically. But you have up-to-date knowledge, so I think you should consider writing a book.
I could write a book on what not to do,
There you go.
what to do, and that covers not just content but also business and relationships and negotiation and all of those things, because the intentions are aligned, but there really is just a different approach, and I think that it's just so taken for granted. I think it's so taken. I think it's impossible not to at first. I think any American is sitting down at the table is, and is going to run into those issues. But I think it's just about having that open and direct communication. Yeah.
Well, I hope that your new branded company, Morning View Entertainment, has a blog on its website, and you start writing blog articles, because this is very useful.
Oh my gosh!
You should consider that. Please do. Please consider that.
I'm making a note right now.
Okay. Good. Good.
Yes.
Believe me, you would. I would happily promote it, and it would be a great service. But anyway, I'm way off topic. But do consider that. It would be a bestseller, I think.
Absolutely.
Now, if you could give advice to your younger self, what would it be?
If I could give some advice to my younger self, I would say what matters is what you do. Mm-hmm. I think that especially in the social media driven culture that we live in, it's really easy to get caught up in the quotes and like, you have to believe in yourself to do something. You have to be confident in order to do something. There's these vague pressures that have us just kind of chasing our tail. And I think that confidence comes with experience and skill and knowledge. So I think of confidence as something that's sort of category based, and it's my very human way of looking at things, because I certainly would never want a young person that's just saturated with Instagram success quotes to think, oh, I'm not really confident at this, so I'm not going to try it. I can't see myself. I don't believe in myself in this area yet. And so that's just so uncomfortable for me. I'm not going to put pen to page. And I'll just say, a lot of my greatest accomplishments, in my view, not that they are great accomplishments, but my greatest accomplishments in my life have been when I took a chance on myself and gave something my best. Mm-hmm. Instead of focusing on, and in the sense of being of service to that project or that goal, and took the pressure off myself of, having this insane pressure to be confident at all times. It's good to be confident, but I don't think it should be like a roadblock. And I go back to it matters what we do. Some days I feel great about everything and some days I don't. But what matters is the action we take. And I think looking back, I think looking back on the years, that's what made the difference.
Exactly. And like you said earlier, you just got to get out of the house, walk out of the house.
Hollywood, I hate to say it, but it's full of go-getters and doers, and it's an exciting place to be and an inspirational place to be. But you got to put your shoes on and go get out the door and put pen to paper and write that story. And
that's right.
It's an action-driven industry, and it's fun for that reason, but it takes some guts.
Exactly. And you've got a lot of guts, so good for you.
Oh, thank you.
In conclusion, would you like to share any social media details or website links?
Thank you so much. So I will be that cheesy person, and because we're rebranding, so in a month,
sure, I can add that.
Yeah, go to morningviewentertainment.com. But because we're rebranding right now, we do work with, and I volunteer at New Village Charter School for girls.
Okay, great.
Yeah, so I would say just because we're in the middle of a rebrand, I would say go to their social media.
Okay.
See how you can volunteer, support them. They're an amazing, organization. And yes, maybe I'll send you our new social media links in about a month. I mean, you can go to Wavelets Entertainment social media, but either way.
Okay, great. Well, Caroline, this has been very educational and very exciting to hear all your stories. And I just want to say thank you for coming on the show today.
Absolutely. I really, really appreciate the time. Thank you for having me. And I will talk to you very soon.
Okay. And we'll see you at the premiere.
Sounds good. Thank you.
And now for my key points. Today I have 4. Number 1, the secret to finding producers interested in Asian-themed content is... Caroline's answer is simple. Put your shoes on and get out of the house. You just do it. Go to events. Talk to people about your goals. Enthusiasm is contagious. There are many events you can consider attending, such as the Producers Guild of America. They have events that are open to non-members. CAPE, which is the Coalition of Asian Pacifics in Entertainment. The Asia Society. The Writers Guild, the Film Lab, the LA Chinese Film Festival. You can also check out events on apps like Everbrite and Meetup.com. And these suggestions are going to be in the show notes. Number 2, the difference between Hollywood and Asian heroes. An American protagonist usually takes an independent path. He or she has to go rogue to get the prize. In Asian storytelling, the protagonist works with other people. They make a sacrifice to become a hero. Number 3, broaden your horizon. As you've heard and read many times, it seems China has pulled up the welcome mat for Hollywood screenwriters and filmmakers. China is also unpredictable. It also has a zero COVID policy, which shuts down entire cities, and it can pull shows off the air at any time. So now is the time to expand your horizons and look at the whole Asian market, especially hot markets like South Korea, the Philippines, Vietnam, and Taiwan. Number 4, get authentic feedback. Caroline commented on Americans who try to write for Asian culture. Some U.S. writers are not aware of the rooted differences between Western and Asian culture. If you want to write for the Asian market, get first-hand knowledge of the market. Get authentic feedback. Better yet, in my opinion, get a writing partner. Americans can look for Asian writing partners, or any nationality writing partner for that matter, and vice versa, on the Asia List. The Asia List, as you know, is our membership website to connect writers and producers in Hollywood and Asia. It also connects writers with other writers. Writer members can request a writing partner for free. Just go to https://chnlist.com. That's chnlist.com. And click the Find a Writing Partner tab. Well, that's the show. Thank you for listening. To show your support, please subscribe, leave a rating wherever you get your podcasts, or share this podcast on social media. Thanks again for spending time with me today, and I'll see you at the premiere. Bye.